All right, my friends, welcome back to Salt City Counseling. Once again, my name's Scott. I'm a licensed therapist here in the beautiful state of Utah, and this is going to be part two on learning how to cure your own mental illness, doing your own work. I realize that a lot of people don't have access to therapy, that therapy has a lot of accessibility issues, and I also realize that there just aren't a whole lot of really good quality, helpful therapists. So I'm providing this content because I think people have the right to have access to do their own work and to work on themselves and find health and healing and happiness and all of that stuff. Yesterday, I started to record a series of videos on addressing trauma as part of this series. And I realized that I needed to lay some groundwork first. So this video really is going to be about laying some groundwork in terms of doing your own work and curing your own mental illness and working on your own mental illness. This video specifically is going to talk about what I believe is basically the remedy or the antidote to mental illness, to insanity. And what's interesting too, with people who are actually like insane, like totally lost their grasp on reality. The real definition, by the way, of insanity is losing your grasp on reality. Is not having is like kind of having this projection in your head of what reality is, and it just being completely false or wrong or inconsistent with what is actually going on with reality. And the classic definition of insanity, of doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, I think describes that to a degree. It's like a loss of touch with reality, right? But the one thing that I found that like advanced cases of mental illness, like we're like certifiably, this person is very mentally ill, has lost their grasp on reality, is the biggest thing that all of those people had in common. The number one thing was that none of them realized that they were mentally ill. They had no idea. They had absolutely no idea that they were mentally ill. So if we kind of reverse engineer that, the antidote to mental illness is awareness. It's having insight. It's conscientiousness. And so one of the best ways to remedy and help and address your own mental illness, and this is just foundational groundwork. It's just going to serve you throughout the process, is learning to actively practice and use what in this video I'm going to call insight, awareness, and conscientiousness. Just sort of different terms for the same thing. And for me, though, what I've learned is that those who actively practice awareness and do it in a way that in which they're unafraid and they take an honest look at themselves, they take an honest look at their lives and their minds and their emotions and their issues and their problems, and build insight and awareness and change their perspective and become conscientious about the whole thing, are those who naturally find where they want to change and what to change and how to change and actively work at it. They're also the ones that find the process to be much more rewarding. And as a note on this particular element, here in the West, here in the U.S., in the United States particularly, we don't have a culture of insight and awareness. We don't. We don't value this, and so which makes it particularly a rare quality trait. This is something that I personally look for in friends, in dating prospects, or whatever, is people who actively practice their own insight, awareness, and conscientiousness. It's not a culture that we promote or encourage in people. It's not a trait that we promote or encourage in people. Just some people happen to find value in it. And the lack of insight, the lack of awareness and conscientiousness in our Western culture here, to me, is really at the root of the majority of our mass psychosis, our mental health epidemic. Don't make no mistake about it. We are experiencing an enormous mental health epidemic, no doubt about it. And truly, to me, one of the main contributors to that is not only do we lack a culture of insight, awareness, and conscientiousness, But a lot of people actively and almost deliberately avoid looking at themselves, examining themselves, being honest with themselves, and doing what is necessary and what it takes to be a mentally healthy person. There are people in my personal life, I'm not going to point out anybody specific, but there are people in my personal life where it's like they actively don't want to look at certain aspects of themselves or certain aspects of their lives because it's uncomfortable. We even have this culture where, trigger warning, avoiding anything that might make you emotionally uncomfortable. And there are people, we have a culture where some people actively, deliberately, and consciously avoid looking at or feeling anything that might make them a little bit uncomfortable. And it's working against us. It's working against them. And those who are really, really persnickety about avoiding anything that's triggering, by the way, like you can't talk to them. They don't want insight. They want to. It's like this is how you wrap yourself into this cocoon of personal lies and personal self-deception, right? So really, truly, the antidote, the remedy to virtually all mental illnesses is to build your insight and awareness and become more conscientious of it. So this is basically going to be one of your most basic and important tools in your toolbox if you want to work on yourself and you want to do your own work. I know a lot of you are having accessibility issues and aren't able to get into a therapist. So for this video, this is what I'm going to focus on. By the way, after this video and we lay some groundwork, I'm gonna do some videos. I'm gonna release some and publish some videos on trauma, looking at trauma, working through trauma, stuff like that, taking it slow, and all of that. But in the meantime, really don't skip over this. This is really, really super important. One of the reasons, there are so many reasons why we have a mental health epidemic, but one of those is that people want quick fixes. It doesn't work that way. If you look at mental health or mental illnesses or your life is needing or wanting a quick fix, one of the questions that I get the most from new therapy clients or people entering therapy is they go, well, how long is it going to take? And the answer is, it doesn't matter how long it's going to take. That's an irrelevant question. If you asked me, that would be like asking, well, I want to be healthier by eating better. How long is it going to take? Well, it's a lifelong thing because you don't eat well for a while and then discontinue. It's not like you ate today so you don't have to ever eat again, right? It's like if you show up at a restaurant and you go, I'm hungry, and you think, well, I just need to eat once and then I'll be filled and then I'll be good to go for the rest of my life. Too many people approach mental illness this way and their mental health is this way. Too many people just want a quick fix. The medical model treats mental health this way. Just take these pills. Take these pills and it'll go away. Doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Regardless, people continue to think that it works. Again, kind of a loss of touch with reality. This idea that I'm experiencing some mental health issues, I just take pills and it'll go away and a quick fix, easy peasy. It just doesn't work that way. I'm sorry, if you pursue that road, you're likely to get very underwhelming results. Okay, it takes work. It really, really does. And some people don't want to hear that, but that really is the truth. Okay, so what you want to do if you want to cure your mental illness is to consciously, deliberately, and with intent, build a practice of exercising your own self-awareness, your own insight, and your own conscientiousness. Okay, so what does this look like? To me, it looks like learning to place your focus and attention on yourself. Getting to know yourself, getting to understand your mind, your emotions, your mental health issues, and really exploring it. Really get to know yourself better. A lot of people I find, there are parts of themselves they don't want to look at. They're afraid to. They're afraid to explore their own mind. They're afraid of their own emotions. They're afraid of their own mind. They're afraid of their own thoughts. And to me, that is absolutely the path of worse mental illness. Don't be afraid. Learn to face and confront the things that need to be looked at. Of course, you should be careful. Of course, you should do it with care. But and you need to do it with patience. It's a process. You have to cultivate this process. Okay, but a lot of people, they find themselves engaging in escapism, for example. It could be video games, it could be TV, it could be social media, it could be all kinds of things. Alcohol, cannabis. They don't want to sit with their uncomfortable emotions. They don't want to sit with their uncomfortable thoughts or whatever the case may be. And so they seek escapism. They want to run away or avoid the uncomfortable sensations. They want to avoid and run away the discomfort. So they do. And it becomes a really, really nasty habit. They get into this idea of thinking, I'm not supposed to experience any discomfort, but you are. Discomfort is good for you. It's actually really, really good for you. We're supposed to do hard things, and if you avoid doing hard things, then you will not get good results. You just won't. That's how it works. Okay, so instead of escapism, you want to deliberately, okay, I'm going to avoid escapism and build some insight. Now, I talk about journaling and writing stuff down like crazy. Get a journal, get a notebook. Writing things down will help you exercise and practice insight, awareness, and conscientiousness. Writing things down works different in your brain. Instead of like maybe cycling things over and over in your emotional and primitive parts of your brain, like writing requires those thoughts and emotions to kind of pass through the more logical and reasonable parts of your brain, and so it processes completely different. And sometimes people say, "Well, I don't like writing," and I'm like, "Well, too bad. I mean, do you want to get better or do you not? This is what it takes." And you have to choose your hard. You have to choose your suck in life. Too many people are in denial of that fact. In life, you have to choose your suck. So if you want to continue to get what you're getting, then don't write things down, right? Don't put it in writing. Just do it, right? So what you want to do as well is be aware of how much of your time is focused on the behaviors of other people. And already I've got some writing exercises down for you, right? At the end of the day, for example, here's an exercise you could do to build your awareness and build your conscientiousness is at the end of the day, make a list of how much time did I waste thinking about other people's behavior and not looking at my own, okay? This thing that I hate about other people or that drives me nuts about other people, do I do that thing? Am I a hypocrite? And I realize that for a lot of people, those things are difficult to look at. They're uncomfortable. That's the point. The people who are healthy, the people who are happy, the people who do well, the people who have better mental health, they lean into that discomfort. They push through it. They process it. They work it out. And it's just really, really important if you want to be mentally healthy. That's just what it takes, okay? So to me, I think it's important if you want to improve your own mental illness on your own, you've got to do this when and where possible, because I know it's not always possible, but as much as possible to do this every day. And it doesn't have to be long. It can even be when you're in traffic. Obviously, don't write things down when you're in traffic, but it's just like, how much does my mind wander onto other people and their behaviors? How much time do I spend being angry or hurt by other people's behavior instead of focusing on myself? Let it go, right? By the way, if you rest your happiness and your mental wellness on the behavior of others, you'll always be miserable, guaranteed. That's a promise, okay? So, all of that being said, insight, awareness, conscientiousness. This is one of the most important tools in your toolbox, regardless of what you're dealing with. Maybe it's trauma. Maybe it's OCD. Maybe it's an eating disorder. Maybe it's anxiety. Maybe it's depression. Maybe it's a combination of a whole bunch of things. Like if with OCD, for example, you're going to want to practice awareness and insight. Like, what are my triggers? Why does this help me feel better? Am I, just because I feel better momentarily, does that make the whole thing better, or does that make the whole thing worse? Where am I now compared to 2 years ago? What would happen? What is the worst case scenario if I didn't listen to these urges? You just have to ask yourself a lot of these important and probing questions to just learn how your disorder works, learn how your mind works, get to know yourself. Notice the trigger, notice the urge when it comes on to do whatever, and here's an awareness exercise for you. What do I normally do when I notice a trigger or discomfort? What do I normally do? Is that working for me? Okay, that's question number 2. Is it working for me? And if not, then you're going to have to do something different. Well, what is that something different? Write it down. When I get a trigger, instead of doing this, I will do this instead. Like for OCD, I'll use this as an example. I notice that when a certain topic is brought up, I want to engage in my OCD rituals. Is it helping? No, it's not. I hate it. Okay. What can I do instead? Deep breathing, physical movement, exercise. I can count to 100. I can go journal, whatever. Okay. And make a list of what you can do instead of engaging in that same, and because if you just do the same thing over and over again, you're just going to reinforce it over and over and over again. Okay, so I would recommend, if you feel like you're not very conscientious, if you're not very aware, if you don't have a ton of insight, you ought to spend a solid month at least just focusing on building your insight, awareness, and conscientiousness. Just do that part. It will naturally help you. I had a client yesterday. Talking to this individual, had something happen 20 years ago, 2 decades, and they had been beating themselves up for the better part of 2 decades over something that they did. And when asked, it's like, why do you think you made that decision? Well, because I was stupid. And so we spent a good 10-15 minutes building insight on why that particular thing happened. And at the end, this person was like, I never thought of it that way. That's what you want to do. You want to build some insight, and you want to be able to change your perspective on it. So please feel free to leave your comments and questions. I like client questions. They're always really positive, so you can leave them in the comments section, or you can email me, scottc@saltcitycounseling.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. This will be an ongoing series on how to treat your own mental illness and how to work through your own mental illnesses. In the next video, which will be published soon, I already recorded it. I just decided to do this one first, publish this one first. I will start laying some groundwork on kind of working through some trauma. Okay? So stay tuned. Share this video. Help me grow my channel. I'd appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.